What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this. What's up? If you're with me, go ahead and type in the chat. Let me know you're here. Give me a little heart, thumbs up, anything. It's my way too of checking sound. Make sure you guys can hear me. But type in the chat. Say hello. Would love to shout you out. Super excited to be here. This is gonna be fun today. We're gonna get started in minute or 2, but let me get sit with y'all. Um, Let me see here. I wanna make sure I don't get any feedback on my end, because sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, but it is nice and sunny, like, it's a beautiful day in Pasadena. It's awesome. Where are you guys listening in from? Hey, what's up, Erin? I see you, girl. Welcome, welcome. What's up, Tony, Matthew? Uh, Cole, Marie, hello, hello. Super stoked to have y'all here. Oh, this is cool. I didn't even realize I could share my screen on this particular stream. Alright, y'all, we're gonna get started. Grab your coffee, tea, notebooks, whatever you got. Give me a second. Let me, put something away on my speaker because 'cause I'm getting some feedback. One second, y'all. I'll be right back. Hang out for just a second. Cool, cool. I see a couple more people. What's up? Morning. Okay, I gotta switch my speaker again. Hold on, y'all. So I'm getting mad feedback, and I wanna make sure that people, pay attention. Hold on. Hello. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I see you in the chat. What's up? What's up? Alright, cool. I'm gonna roll on mute so that I don't get this feedback. Cool, cool. Hi, everybody. I'm curious, did you guys, find out about this via email, Instagram, or Facebook? So type in the chat if you can with me. Um, we're kinda always putting different things out, pieces, so I always like to find out where you guys are hanging out. Yeah. Mhm. Got a couple people. Oh, Instagram. Okay, cool. I see, some people said email here. Cool, cool. Awesome. Alright. Awesome, awesome. Alright, let's get rocking and rolling. Welcome, everybody. If you're just joining, type in the chat. Let me know where you are listening in from. Uh, and today alright. So I'm gonna try to do more and more of these lives. They're not always gonna be on the weekend. Let's see if I can get a set time on my schedule. As most of you know, if you do follow me, thank you, thank you. If you're new, my name is Kayla Rose, AKA Coach K is kind of the nickname in the professional space, but what I get to do is I work with a lot of very high achievers, entrepreneurs, leaders, like many of you listening to this, and my specialty is on mindset. Now, I went to school for psychology, my profession for gosh, I've had this business for about 10 years now. I've been doing this professionally for about 15. So unofficially, I was coaching folks kind of just, "Okay, I like this." I was in school, I was getting my board certification, all of that. But the business itself, almost about 10 years now. And in this almost decade of being a professional mindset coach, there's naturally a lot of patterns that you see with entrepreneurs, high achievers. That's my specialty. And so what I wanna do and break down for you all today, because 'cause we're right at this midyear July as I'm going live with this, is I just love to share with you some of the patterns that I see. What's up if you're on Instagram? Hi, hi, hi. Everything different. Look, if you want the higher res version, go to YouTube. So, here on YouTube, I just wanna share some of these patterns that I see, maybe consider it helpful for you if you consider yourself a high achiever, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a go-getter. You don't have to own a business necessarily that is the majority of people that I work with, but they're just people who are wanting to play at the highest levels of their God-given potential. So on these lives, I'm gonna give you kinda 2 things. I will give you my professional standpoint of the things that I'm seeing, what I'm hearing in coaching conversations, the patterns in my own mastermind group, 'cause I do coach and call it Wednesday, 4 PM LA time, gosh, for years. So there's lots of data, lots of information that I get. And then I also wanna give you my personal take, because if you do know me, I can't separate who I am from necessarily just what I do professionally, and so my personal take is, as a woman of faith, there are also some things that I feel, that I see, that I believe, and I'm gonna share that with you. So you can take that with a grain of salt because I recognize not everybody believes what I believe, but I think it's just worth sharing with you, uh, what I just naturally also feel. So I'm gonna give you the professional side, so definite formulas, patterns, all of that good stuff on the professional end. But if we hang out a little bit towards the end, I'm also giving you my sort of my personal side of this, which is when I am in prayer, when I am, just filling people out, conversations, there are just some things that I see, that I notice that are coming from my heart, to yours. So I'll give that to y'all at the end of this. But if you're with me, hey, what's up again? If you're on Instagram, I would hop on, 'cause that's how many questions on the chat. But if you do have questions for me, please type it in the chat. I'll save that at the end for Q&A. But let's get rocking and rolling. So the first thing I wanna talk about today is the patterns that I've seen in this past year for many of the entrepreneurs that I've worked with, some that I personally just mastermind with in other arenas, and it has been a really interesting 6 months for, again, I am just speaking anecdotally from the people, that I get to interact with, hundreds, and now at this point, probably thousands of business owners and entrepreneurs in these past 6 months. And I work with a lot of people in real estate, so I can talk a little about the real estate industry here in the United States specifically, because I have agents and broker owners that I coach all across the country, so it's not just in California. And a common theme that I am seeing is a ton of challenge, adversity, and perceived even failure in one's industry because, and I am gonna caveat this, the systems are and so what I mean by the systems are changing, like, as an example, in real estate, if you follow that world, here in the US, we have a big NAR settlement that recently happened. The National Association of Realtors has changed the way that, essentially you work with buyers if you are in the real estate industry. For years, it was a particular way. There was nothing really set in stone, and then now there's a lawsuit, and it's shaking the industry up to a certain degree because a lot of folks, um, now have to communicate their value differently. They have to talk about, commission and percentages and how they get paid differently, but it also changes the consumer's viewpoint of, "Well, then agents are out to get my money," or, "That no wonder they get paid so much, they take so much from me." To be fair, it's unfair to a lot of the people in the industry who are professionals because imagine working for somebody for 6 months, showing houses, doing all these things, spending time on the weekends, spending time away from your family, not getting paid while you are working for them for those 6 months, and not even sure if you're gonna get a paycheck at the end because sometimes the deals don't fall through. Sometimes, you might decide you don't wanna buy that house. And to be told at the end, yeah, and when all is said and done, I only wanna give you this small percentage of whatever the cost is gonna be. So it's like for that 6 months of work, I'm just giving kind of an example of what can you don't even know if you're gonna get paid. All this time, so meaning the time is done. The time is given to these people. The service has been rendered. It's like going to a restaurant, everything's been served, and at the end of it, you decide, "Okay, I know you said that this is all probably worth, like, $80 of food between me, my family, and my friends, but yeah, I think you should only be paid $5 for all of this food that we've already consumed." That sucks, right? And then how do you create a sustainable business this way? So anyway, that's an example because that's just one, and then we see changes within people. own a few businesses. We see changes with people who are consultants or coaches. I've seen huge systematic changes in people who are in the financial industry, the loan industry. I mean, across the board, when I say systems are changing, it's not just the organizational structure, but you're looking at consumer behavior. So the people who have money to spend, a lot of them, yes, some of them are boomers, a lot of them now are millennials, and we are starting to see younger and younger generations making more money quickly. I was just talking to a client about this recently. When was the last time in a generation that it was common for a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old to now make millions of dollars because they're a YouTube influencer, because they're a TikTok influencer? Like, I mean, you're talking about a preteen making millions of dollars, hardcore money that people have gone their whole careers making. Like, we are in a very different market and economy from even when I was in school and we graduated, right? We were trained, most of us, especially if you are, kind of my age, like the sort of geriatric millennial, apparently, is what I'm considered. But, like, we're in school, we're taught, okay, you sit here, you clock in, you go to school for the 6 to 8 hours of a job, right? You clock out, you still have work to take home, AKA homework. You go to college, you get the degree, you get the job with all the benefits, like, you were trained to be in a particular system. And whatever that system was, it has changed rapidly with the advancements of technology. And I mean, and that's beautiful. We wanna see growth, I wanna see progress and advancement. But with that said, the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because the rapid change has almost increased velocity. This is why I'm saying a lot of people are, especially in business, are experiencing this challenge, failure, and setback right now, and it's rocking them a bit because maybe how they've been doing things for so long and those things have worked, it's not working anymore. And so that's the big, shift that you're starting to see. Maybe it was the changes were already happening, but now the effect of it is catching up. When I say the effect of it, meaning you're seeing it on your revenue, you're seeing it on your P&Ls, you're seeing a drop in the income, because we also need to innovate, change faster, see what the consumer in the market actually needs. And also today, other than giving you these patterns, remember my specific specialty is on mindset. So I focus on what you can control. You can't always control the market. You can't we can't always. You usually can't control it for the most part. You can control your marketing. It's very different, but you can't control the market itself, right? You can't control how people, are now consuming or buying, or they want this, or they want an app, or they want convenience, or they want Apple Pay versus cash, or whatever the case may be. You just have to see where you can be valuable. So I focus on your mindset. And what are the things that are getting in your way from making those shifts and changes? And more importantly, from a business perspective, making those changes consistently. Because I think it's easy to just come up with ideas. Oh, yeah, Coach K, I agree, this, or I disagree with that, and these are the changes that okay, we can talk about that till the cows come home. But the point is, what change are you going to make? And are you gonna execute that consistently? And are you gonna be able to measure that data? And then let's say it doesn't work out in your favor. How quickly can you adapt again and again and again? That's assuming you even wanna continue doing what you do, and that's a whole 'nother piece, right? Getting clarity, and this is what I talked about in the description, getting massive clarity on exactly what you want. Maybe you actually don't know what you want yet, and so there's a little bit of a muddled effect with how you pursue what it is that you're doing, because your energy is half in, half out, and the truth is, in order for you to get pro results, the pro mindset is, "I'm all in." But you might be rocking with an amateur mindset right now, which is, "Well, I'm kinda in. I'm just doing it 'cause it gets the bills paid, but I'm not all in." So imagine if the amateur mindset is kinda in and the pro mindset is all in, and you're playing amateur mindset, how do you expect to get pro results with an amateur mindset? That doesn't make any sense, right? But we all do it, and I'm not knocking on you specifically. Again, I am just sharing patterns, and if it resonates with you, then I raise your hand to it, because I can also show you how to kinda get out of it. Because I'm the first to say I have noticed a lot of very amateur patterns and habits into my own thinking. Yeah, how can I expect pro results if I'm playing like an amateur, if I'm practicing like an amateur? So it's kind of one of 2 things are gonna happen, right? Number 1, I then need to shift my behavior into what is the pro mindset? What is professional, habits and behavioral patterns so that I can go for pro results, or I stop expecting pro results, and I just become okay with amateur results because I'm not trying to change my amateur behavior. I'm trying to change my amateur mindset. That's fine too. So, I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but the reason we suffer is because there's a cognitive dissonance. Meaning, I want this result, this pro result, these 6, 7, 8-figure businesses, profitability, the sort of freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of decision, but I'm also not practicing doing the work, showing up in closed door situations, behind the scenes. I'm not in the right community that's also supporting pro results, and so there's a disconnect there. So this one thing that, if you are taking notes, you're welcome to. The big pattern is the systems need to change because the systems are changing. And interestingly enough, we are in an election year here in the US, and that always comes with a lot of, I'd say emotional charge, which then can stimulate a lot of change in people. And remember, the systems change because consumer behavior changes. So when the psychology of the people, the masses, how they buy, where we go to eat, what we decide not to buy, what we're doing now, what's in vogue, like, all of these things, why social media is it is a really big deal. It's quite unhealthy, but it is a big deal because it starts to shift consumer behavior. That's when we see the market change. So if there's any sort of encouragement I can give you if you're starting to see or at least feel, "Yes, systems are changing in my business. My industry is definitely changing. I see a change in my own income, and I don't know what to do with it." Like, I've done this for so long, Coach K. It's not working. It's not hitting the same. I'm not getting the same results. Great. That's good feedback, okay? And I'm gonna talk about the mindset shifts to get there and the habits you need to implement, but I just want you to know that's actually good feedback because the one thing that is inevitable in this life, y'all know this, death and taxes? Sorry, I'm sorry. It's change, right? Nature itself changes. We change. We are literally building new cells, and other cells are dying every single second of every single day. So even our systems are gonna change. It's just that right now it's happening even more rapidly. And so if you also don't get on it, meaning if you aren't in growth mindset, if you aren't willing to lean into the work, if you aren't getting around the right people, when I say right people, that is, different for everyone. So I'm not telling you who to be around, but I am telling you that you do need to be around some really sound people. You don't do this alone. I think it's one of the greatest disservices you do to yourself, especially if you're building something, growing something, if you're providing for a family, you need strong community around you, strong counsel around you, okay? That's too much pressure for you to take on your own shoulders all alone. There's pride in that, and there's no success in it either, 'cause the second thing I wanna give you right now is I do have a lot of people that I'm working with who are succeeding in this season. So while one pattern is challenge and adversity because you are seeing rapid change in the system and the result of that change is now really hitting, the second thing I wanna show you is I do have a huge amount of people that I work with who they're crushing it. And when I say crushing it, it's not just financial. They're seeing a lot of satisfaction in the work that they do. They have a lot of fulfillment even in their personal life. And there's a couple of things that I wanna bring up, but here's the main the common thread about from those who are calling me, telling me, "Man, I had the best year in business in a really long time, even better than 2020 or prior to that." And of all those conversations I have, the common thing I am hearing and noticing in their strategy, they all say it in kinda different ways, but here's what it boils down to, they are building even more relationships. And I know that sounds really simple, but sometimes simple is the strategy. In fact, I would say we fail because we overcomplicate things, right? Or we're trying to overthink it. We're trying to overpredict because the truth is we're quote unquote scared. We call it careful. We call it, well, I'm just analyzing, but y'all know this term. If you're in analysis paralysis, then now it's a overcompensation. Remember, anytime you underdo something or overdo something, we're compensating for something. So let me repeat that. Anytime you underdo something, meaning I'm underperforming, I don't do anything, I become maybe I don't. I'm just shutting down, or I'm overdoing it. I'm overperforming. I'm overachieving. I'm trying to do all of these things to the point of exhaustion. So under or over, it's because we're compensating, which means maybe you're underperforming and you don't even wanna do anything because you're just tired and exhausted, and it's because you have anxiety, and it's 'cause you have fear. So you just what's the point? I don't do anything. So there's an under. Or there's an overcompensation. You're going gunning, trying to control everything, but it's rooted from the same place. It's because it's 'cause I feel like I don't have control. It's 'cause I don't know what's going on. You overdo because 'cause you're trying everything. Either way, none of those options or modes of behavior are coming from a confident, centered, calm, well thought out place. And I just want you to hear this because, again, it is not a dig. It is just an audit. Where am I in that spectrum? If I'm being very honest with myself, where am I operating? And if it isn't from this place where you feel at peace, confident, calm, regardless of the chaos around you, then we gotta change some habits. We gotta change in some perspectives. We have to look at things quite differently because the one thing that everybody I have ever worked with is seeking at the end of the day is a sense of peace in their spirit about what they're doing, who they're in relationship with, and how they go about those. I know we phrase it differently as in, "I wanna be able to make X amount of money, I want my family life to look like this, I wanna go on this vacation, I wanna be able to have these things." You know, sometimes we describe our goals or aspirations, materialistically or externally, but why? If I really ask that question 1,000 times, what is it that you think that thing will give you? What is it that you think that accomplishment will say to you? What is it that you think that relationship will inevitably become at its best and highest expression? And it all boils down to they just want a sense of peace in their spirit. So with that said, this peace in your spirit is going to come when we start looking at all of your life from a values-based standpoint. I don't wanna get there too quickly, but just know this, for those who are succeeding, the big pattern there, maybe the pattern you need to start looking at, is building even better relationships. When I say relationships, it looks like this. They're collaborating instead of working alone. They're meeting with people again, having more coffees, lunches in person, sort of this post-pandemic I know it's been 4 years now, but still a lot of us are still coming out of sort of the haze of that big worldly, traumatic experience, and so the idea of meeting in person again, getting back into that habit after taking time, a lot of people are still kinda getting used to it, right? So, meeting again, checking in with people. Maybe it's not just about work, but genuinely being, "Hey, what do these people need?" Ask how they're doing. Ask them if you could pray for them, you know, whatever it is, check in. And I was listening to something the other day, and I love this, it was on Instagram. Pray for with people who you think are doing well, right? It's not just your friends who call you all the time. It's the people who look like they got it all together. You might wanna check in with them the most because the ones who think they got it together, or it looks like on Instagram, they might be the ones falling apart in the background. That's why it looks a certain way. I'm not saying that's always the case, but don't exempt them and think, "Oh, yeah, they just came back from vacation. They're fine." You don't know what that actual vacation was like. You just got the highlight reel of it. But so check in with people, genuinely ask how they're doing. I'm giving you the patterns of success. I know it's like, "How's that business success?" I'm telling you, my clients, my friends, for my colleagues who are doing very well, it is these simple touch points. But because they build such strong connections and relationships, that's what almost naturally turns into business. It naturally turns into an opportunity. It naturally turns into a creative idea or collaboration together. The foundation of it is genuine, intimate connection and relationships. It's not always tactics. It's not always numbers of phone calls that they make. Like, I understand funnels, operations, processes, those are vital from a business standpoint. When you're in your CEO hat, I get that. But I'm just speaking to you right now as a person, as a leader, as someone who is wearing multiple hats in all of your responsibilities of life. You are so much stronger when you do it together. And what I mean by together is you need strong community. You need strong relationships, and as a leader, sometimes you're the one who needs to take initiative, And I wanna speak to somebody right now who maybe in the back of their mind just said, "Well, what if you're always like, that's exhausting, Coach K. I feel like I'm always the one reaching out. How come no one else is reaching out back to me?" Now remember, I said relationship, not transaction. So right now, if you're the only one making an effort, that's transaction because relationship is a two-way thing. So what you think is relationship is actually them getting something from you. They're benefiting from you. But if you're also not feeling fed in your soul, so I call them needers versus feeders. If you're not getting also feeders in your life, people who will pour back into you, then maybe we do need to start up-leveling those relationships. Who do you need to be in community with? That could be a mentor. It could be a different group of people. But that's what I mean by starting to build even more relationships. Maybe reach out to the friend or colleague you haven't reached out to in a while. Maybe there's someone out there who you really admire and respect, and you're like, "I don't even know. It would be great to collaborate with them, but I don't know." Hit them up on Instagram, DM them. If you're a Facebook user, private message them. There's a way to contact them, right? So just try. Even if you don't get a response right away, try again and try again, but just create because you're stronger together, okay? Um, the other thing that they're doing is they're asking you, "How can I support this person? Do they have a business? Do they have a brand? Is there just something that they need?" Maybe it's a book or a podcast or and I'll give you a really sweet example of this. One of my best friends since middle school. She's also really busy. She is an executive at a nonprofit organization. She travels, and she also knows I have a busy life myself, business, being a mama, wife, all the things, right? And she reached out to me the other day, and she's like, "Alright, we need a spa day. Tell me where on your calendar can we fit this in?" And she wouldn't get off the phone with me. We put it on the calendar, and I just thought that was the sweetest thing because not that I don't think about her and not that we don't text check-in and all of that, but she's like, "No, you need to make time. You are making time for me." Like, she did the thing that I couldn't do for myself, right? And that sort of relationship, whether it's personal or professional, I am seeing that those who are succeeding are doing that really well for 2 reasons. Number 1, certainly those relationships can turn into opportunity professionally, business, but the second piece that I'm seeing and why I think it's even more important is it provides energy in your life, a center in your spirit when you have those connections and relationships. When you have that energy, when you have that balance, remember how I talked about peace of spirit? You show up differently as a leader than when you're burnt out, exhausted, angry, feeling alone. And that loneliness, by the way, that's another common thread that I've seen with a lot of entrepreneurs in this past 6 months. Maybe they are surrounded by a lot of people physically, but they feel lonely inside because they can't have genuine connection, or at least they don't think that they can genuinely connect with somebody else. They know other people they can have this type of conversation with. They don't feel an intimacy of connection. And so because there is no genuine connection other than just sort of superficial touch points, they feel alone in the process. And loneliness can start to mess with your mind. It's like being thirsty in a desert. You start to imagine things there that aren't supposed to be there. You start reaching out for stuff that actually isn't going to help you. Isn't gonna quench that thirst that you're looking for, right? You might invest in another program, or you might go socially drinking, or you might hang out with the wrong people just to have some sort of connection, but it doesn't satisfy you in the same way. So, anyway, I say all of that because building more relationships may be the key to start giving you the energy you need, the opportunities, the perspective, but start there. And remember, simple is best. Okay? Cool. If y'all are still with me, type in the chat because I know I talk a lot, so I don't wanna override anyone, but if you do have questions, please type it in the chat. I'll let you for about 30 minutes. Again, if you're on Instagram, you're getting, like, the not so great angle, but if you want to hop on YouTube, 'cause I'm here right now. Alright, cool. Now, there were other 2 other things I wanted to talk about. Number 1, how do you get massive clarity on what you want? So when I do work with these high achievers, and let's say they're overwhelmed, burnt out, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, but I gotta get back on track quickly because we got bills to pay, I got payroll, I got all these different things." So number 1, to get clear on what you want, the very foundational piece of this is you have to schedule time away for and when I say schedule time away for thinking, I'm talking about like a self or some sort of retreat away 1 day minimum, 2 days if you can, 3 days is epic. But I get it, we've got really busy lives, but if you don't schedule, I mean, put it on your calendar as if it's a vacation or a meeting that you're going to, but you have to have dedicated time away to actually think. You can't get clarity on what you want just, like, in the mix of all the chaos. I understand there are moments of inspiration. Some people do get good momentum when they are working on something, but for some folks, they just need to reevaluate the whole thing. Like, "Man, I am doing so much, but I don't even know what I'm doing it all for. I don't even know what I should be doing first. I don't know what the priorities are." You have to get away. When I say get away, like I said, it needs to be just you. In some cases, you can do, let's say, a group retreat, and that's facilitated or led by somebody who's getting you to reflect, but the point is, whether it's by yourself or someone who's guiding you in reflection, it's to reflect. And when I say away, it has to be away from your normal environment matters. So this is not getting away, I'm gonna lock myself in my office and just think. No, because you're used to being in your office, or you're used to being, at your broker's office, or you're used to being in your home office. And now not at that coffee shop that you're also used to going to. I mean away, even if it means I'm gonna book a little Airbnb just 5 miles from my house or 2 miles from my house, or I'm gonna go to a hotel, but it has to be in a new environment. Because you wanna fire new neurons. You wanna be in an environment that's unfamiliar so you can also because when you're in a familiar environment, you start to trigger familiar habits, behaviors, and associations. And when you are on this time away, whether you call it a self-retreat, scheduled reflection, then you can really start to think. And I'll be very honest with you, the feedback that I get half of the time on this, when I tell people, "You need to schedule time away, you need to go on a self-retreat." Half of the people say, "Man, that sounds great, I'm doing it." So, on the that's probably 'cause I work with a lot of high achievers, so they're always like, "Yeah, put it on the calendar." The other half go, "That sounds terrifying. I don't wanna be alone. I already feel lonely. Now I'm gonna ask me to go be by myself away from my family. I don't have time to do that." And I ask them, "Okay, well, if you keep doing what you're doing, it's really benefiting your family. I know you say you don't wanna spend time away from them, but is the time that you're with them truly is the time with your spouse right now at peace, passionate, intimate, joyful? Are the times with your kids just activity, activity after activity, or are you really present with them? Are you getting to know them? Or are you just irritable and snapping at them all the time?" And again, I am not knocking on anybody. I get it. I am in the thick I have a 19-month-old, and I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to be a good wife. I'm trying to do all the things. So I know the depletion of energy, believe but that's also why I'm saying from a place both of I see it on a personal level, what I'm personally going through, but I see it on a professional level day to day where I'm having hundreds of conversations a month on the same with different people from all over the map, and it all boils down to the same thing. We're all human. We actually all have this very similar experience, but you also need time for soul care. I'm not saying just self-care. So this is not just put cucumbers on your eyeballs and feel better, put your feet up with a glass of white wine or grab a beer and just go hang out by the pool. That's fine, but if you've known me for a while, we need to go deeper than that because we're just gonna if we get surface solutions, right, that's kinda what those are a lot of the time. It's good, it alleviates the pain temporarily, it alleviates what you need temporarily, but it's not a long-term fix. When I say soul care, it's very different. These are deep questions to start asking yourself. Yeah, what is the purpose of what I'm doing? What do I want to happen in all aspects of my life? A good template for this, if you're just like, "Okay, how do I even get started?" Just Google or ChatGPT Zig Ziglar's Wheel of Life exercise. It's a really popular self-development tool, but I think just as is, that's a great tool. So again, you could ChatGPT or just Google it, Zig Ziglar's Wheel of Life exercise. I've written one of my own, so you're welcome to just email me. My contact information is here in the, chat below, but you could DM me on Instagram, wherever it is. Happy to send you some exercise questions on the Wheel of Life, but even taking a day to do that, just like, "You know what? Wheel of Life exercise, boom." And I think one of the most powerful things so a long time, probably a little over 10 years ago, I began the routine of self-retreat, where I would get away for 2, 3 days sometimes, 0 emails, 0 text messages. I would actual phone call to my family or whoever to just check in once a day, but I would go somewhere. In my case, I would go to Carlsbad, California. I like being by the beach. I would get a little hotel room and I would reflect for those 2 days, completely alone. And as someone who is a little bit more on the extroverted side, I definitely lean towards getting energy from people. That was really hard for me in the very and what also made it hard is my thoughts. So this is why it's terrifying for most people, by the way. It's not even just physically being alone, some people are like, "Actually, I'd love you." But the issue is, "Oh my gosh, I don't wanna deal with my thoughts." And if that's one of your first places that you go in your heart, that then you need this more than anybody, 'cause you shouldn't be living a life where you are fearful of your own thoughts. Because regardless of what you might think, it's like, but you don't understand, I'm holding it all together at the outside. If I start looking at my own thoughts, everything's gonna crumble. That tells me you've never built then any of these things, as nice as they look, on solid foundation. It's not on solid ground. And that's why I'm encouraging you, you have to do this, and maybe you start with a professional first, meaning like you do a group retreat that's facilitated, or you work with a therapist or coach or a mentor or somebody, and maybe you don't go by yourself yet, if you're not feeling ready for it. Reason being is because the next time there's an earthquake or a big shakeup in your business or your life, if you're not built on a solid foundation, you don't even like your own thoughts. If there's no solid foundation of like, I like my thoughts, I like my identity, clear on who I am, where I'm going, where I get my strength from, it's gonna crumble. And the last thing I want is for your business, your family life, your marriage, yourself, your own mental health to start to crumble, which is why it's good to start getting an audit of these things. Not because you're weak, not because you're broken, but the truth is we all have our own conditions. We all have our own trauma. And the reason I work with overachievers is because often for us, the way we compensate for that trauma or conditioning that isn't helpful or hasn't been positive is we just use career or work or money making or any of these other accolades, right? It's just a different type of drug, so to speak. That's why it's called overachieving. Remember how I said anything over or under is sometimes a compensation? So I'm highly aware because, like I said, I'm that person. I know myself. I'm not dealing with something, I overdo, right? So that's my kind of, "Oh, check engine light, Camille. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What are the conversations we need to have? What are the things we need to start looking at? What is the perspective that you're starting to hold that isn't helpful for you?" So, time away is necessary. And like I said, if you need a little bit more guidance, a little bit more help, look up that Zig Ziglar's Wheel of Life exercise, or you can just contact me directly. I can send you a PDF of something, okay? Alright, time away. You've gotta reflect, you've gotta think, and this is the perfect time, by the way, July, mid-year, so you can really assess the lessons learned so far, and then where you wanna go the rest of the year. Alright? Alright, last thing I wanna give you, and then I wanna get into sort of my personal reflection and questions, but mindset shifts and habit hacks that are necessary. So, I'm just gonna give you 2 mental shifts that you must if you want to live out your ultimate life, your business, personal, all of these things that are necessary. It will separate you from the majority of people, not in a, "Oh my gosh, you're better than them" sort of way, but what I mean is, as a whole, we tend to fall into our default behaviors of fear and scarcity. That's just human evolution. The brain is designed to help us survive. That is not a bad thing. But it does become a bad thing when we keep applying that fight or flight or freeze or fawn, what we call the, sort of survival mechanism, right? That's our sympathetic nervous system. When we apply that to everything all the time, because also at some point you wanna thrive, right? You don't wanna just survive everything. You don't wanna just react to things. But that also comes from your mental state, your mindset. Remember, as a coach, I am speaking to those who are quote unquote, functioning, and then I'm getting you to high functioning. If you feel like, "You know what, I'm not even at a functionable level right now," this is where I highly recommend therapy. Working with a licensed mental health specialist, a therapist, a counselor, that's different because they're gonna help you dig up the past, maybe look at things that we need to heal, conditioning, trauma, and I would look for a licensed therapist that way. You can go to psychologytoday.com. There's so many different resources, but that's where therapy is gonna be helpful. Now coaching comes in where, all right, you know what, I'm functioning, I think I'm okay there, I'll work with a therapist today 'cause I got some problems that I wanna work on, but now I just wanna look at how do I achieve these goals? Like, what are the stories I'm telling myself that are blocking me from those goals? Why can't I be in high performance? So that's where coaching kinda comes in. Just like with an athlete, right? I'm gonna see you play on the court and be like, "Okay, you dribble a little bit too much this way," or "You don't pay attention to the defender that's coming in on your left side." So I can see how you play your game and then help you make adjustments faster and hold you accountable. That's where you know a good coach is what you need in your life. So let me give you those mindset shifts. The first one, you have to understand that if you wanna change the behavior, I have to look at my identity. If you wanna change the behavior, you have to look at your identity. Why? Because identity drives behavior. That's how we work as humans. I see myself, if I truly identify as a healthy person, what's up, Instagram? If I see myself as a healthy person, I am more likely to make healthy choices, okay? If my identity, however, though, is I'm weak, I love sweets, and I just give it to temptation every time, then likely my behavior is going to follow suit from that. So when I say identity drives behavior, one of the first things we're looking at is what is your true, honest to God identity? Who do you believe you are? What is the default story you tell yourself, especially in times of stress, frustration, and fear? Because that's how you really know your identity. Like, whatever you say about yourself when, like, tragedy hits, when something stressful arises, that's a subconscious identity. And for some of us, maybe we do have an identity of, "Well, you know what? I'm a lazy person. I'm a procrastinator." Or like, you know, I'm more, conservative, so I don't know, I'm not a risk, and, that might be true for you right now. But if you know, "Well, you know what? I've been that way for a long time, but I don't wanna be that anymore. How do I make the shift at Coach K?" Is it as simple as saying, "Well, now I'm a risk taker?" Yes and no. You have the concept right in that we are now looking to shift an identity, but we still need to do what is true for you. So a simple shift, I'll just give this to you as an example, is instead of jumping from "I am not a risk taker" to "I am a risk taker." If you wanna become a little bit more bold in your action steps in business, is to go from "I am not a risk taker" to "I am willing to now take small risks," or "I am trying to be someone who is more," or "I am now making an effort to be more bold in this." 'Cause that could be very true, right? I am someone who makes an effort in being more bold, and that's gonna be a much better, move forward on that scale of identity, 'cause you don't wanna jump from extremes. That's not gonna be helpful for you. In fact, that sort of manic up and down is often associated with a mental disorder. So that's what we're creating, right? We're trying to create a little bit more stability in that. But that's what I wanna give you is what is the identity that you hold with regards to the second mindset in understanding my behavior is driven by my identity. The second piece of this is failure equals feedback, okay? Failure is simply feedback. I say this right after the identity piece because one of the common things I often see is if somebody fails at something or a product fails or a venture fails or a relationship fails or you're just hitting a big bump in the road and you see that as a failure, like that thing, you might start to identify with being a failure. I am a failure at I failed at blank, and that's dangerous. Remember how I said identity drives behavior, and who wants to fail? Nobody. I mean, maybe there are some people who they've had positive associations to conditioning when it comes to failure. I was listening to, the founder of Spanx many years ago, the CEO and founder of Spanx, talked about how every night at the dinner table, her father would ask them go around to all the kids and ask them, "All right, well, what is something that you failed at today?" And it's such an interesting question, right? Not, "No, how was your day?" or what was good today?" He's like, "What is something you failed at?" Because one of the things he wanted to teach them was you wanna try something that you haven't tried before every single day. Because essentially, it's his version of growth mindset. So if you're not failing at something, that means you weren't trying something. You weren't taking a risk, you weren't being bold. So for her, again, founder of Spanx, right, billion-dollar company, I believe it is, I'll have to correct that if in case it isn't, but successful nonetheless. She associates taking risks with failure, and failure being actually a positive. So, while she might be the rare exception to that, I think the majority of people see failure as negative, we avoid it like the plague, right? But if you can see it as just feedback, it just means that didn't work. It doesn't mean you didn't work. It doesn't mean that you suck. It doesn't mean that you're bad. But if you start taking on that piece as an identity, that's a reflection of me, and so I suck, so I should try it again 'cause I don't wanna lose, I wanna be a winner. That's the wrong mindset. If you can understand and detach a bit more, it's like, "You know what? That was interesting. Feedback. What do I need to change? What needs to change? How does the system need to change?" Great. Then you can keep innovating. You start to become curious instead of just always critical of yourself, okay? So I just wanna give you those 2 that these are gonna be essential for the rest of this year. My identity drives my behaviors. Who do I see myself as? And the second is the failure that you've been experiencing right now is feedback. So what do you change about your approach, about, who you're working with, about maybe how you see yourself, etcetera, but something needs to change, right? But it's not necessarily that you are the failure. Alright, cool. Last piece, habits, and then let's get into some questions. I did see some stuff come through the chat. If I don't get to all of it, I'll get to you guys later, but the habit hacks, the 2 ones that are important. So these are action steps. I gave you the psychological, so let me give you just 2 action steps right now. Number 1, everybody who is thriving right now is reading their environment for success. So what I mean by that is I want you to take an audit of your physical environment. Look at your office, look at your house, look at your room. Is it really rigged for you to succeed? Like, when you look at it, are you like, "Yeah, everything is organized, I know where things are. When I see it, I also know what my priorities are. If I've given myself a goal to get up every morning and do a workout." Are your workout clothes and running shoes right there where you can grab it and reach it easily, so it's success convenient? Or is it one of those things where I don't know where anything is and I gotta fumble around in the dark to go get it, so yeah, I don't even get to it 'cause it's just too much. That's what I mean, so that environment is not rigged for you to succeed. So everyone I work with who is succeeding at very high levels, they do not do it by willpower, okay? So let me eradicate that fallacy. They're successful in all aspects of life, not because they are so much smarter than you, not they are so much more disciplined than you. It might appear that way, but I can almost guarantee part of what helps them become so disciplined is they know how to set up their environment so they are more disciplined. Where discipline comes a lot easier, right? So again, I gave you that example of, let's say now I really want to get up every morning and go for a workout. Well, make working out as easy as possible for you. Set up the clothes the night before, put your running shoes right there, so the minute you pop out of bed, boom, shoes, outfit, walk out the door, get to the gym. Gym bag already or what is your for you to succeed? And if it's not first place you get to start this summer, start cleaning out your environments. Get rid of the clutter. Getting organized. Prioritize what the priority is for you. Okay? Alright, and then the second habit hack here, accountability. So I'm putting my hair down 'cause we're wrapping I'm gonna relax in a bit when I get to the personal section. But accountability. So the science has proven that the minute you have accountability, your success rate jumps up almost 80% if you'll execute on something. So when I say accountability, that could be telling a mentor, a coach, you can have a group accountability, you can have a friend who you're like, "Hey, let's do this challenge together." You do a public announcement, "I'm gonna do this, y'all, for my clients on this date, da 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 da." So even if you don't feel like doing it, now you got a public post on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, whatever. But when you set up your life for that level of accountability, you are declaring, "I'm gonna show up." So for some of you, if you feel like you have been thinking things in your head, but you're not doing anything about it, you may need to take it to the next level and be like, "Alright, I'm selling this person. I'm putting my money where my mouth." You pay attention to what you pay for. So when money's on the line, I'm gonna probably do it because now I got a little pain out of my pocket. When I've told people about it, I don't wanna embarrass myself and look like I have no integrity, so I'm gonna show up even if I don't feel like it. So I'm just giving you the easy hacks that are gonna make discipline and willpower look effortless on your part, okay? There is effort that needs to be put in, but these what I call in the dark disciplines, the stuff nobody sees. This is what's gonna set you up so when you are in the places where people see you, the platforms you need to be on, the work that you need to do, the service that you render, they're like, "Man, how are you doing it so well, so beautifully, so effectively, so masterfully, with such discipline?" And then you can confidently say, "Because you know what? When you don't see me, I am doing these things for myself. I have set up my environment for success. I am invested in a group. I am working with a coach. I have a mentor. I do all these things." And those are the disciplines in the dark that then have results in the service in the light. You see what I'm saying? Because if you're not also setting up these disciplines where no one can see it, these practices, these hacks that I'm telling you about, and then you just expect that, "Okay, when I just show up, I'm gonna show up really great." It's not gonna work. And the last example I'll give you of this, just because, I'm such a sports person. I like basketball, that's what I love, so I'll give you guys this example. Kobe Bryant was known for like, spending time in practice, taking practice so seriously, basketball practice, that how he practiced was how he was gonna play the game. So to him, practicing 3 times a day, a 4 AM practice, a noon practice, and then another 4 PM practice or something like that, right? And his mindset, the Mamba mentality was, "I am going to show up at practice the way I wanna show up at the game." So he took it very seriously. Contrast that with another player who I wanna say very also talented, but he didn't have the same success that Kobe did. He didn't have the championships that Kobe did. He didn't even have unfortunately, I think at one point even in his career, he ended up bankrupt. There was a point guard named Allen Iverson, and Allen Iverson, he played for the Philadelphia 76ers, little inside life. When I had my first opportunity to join, like, a junior basketball league, I was number 3 on the 76ers. That was, like, my team, on this junior basketball league, so and I bought Allen Iverson Reeboks because 3 was my lucky number, so I studied Allen Iverson. I really liked him. He had the crazy crossover. I'm geeking out on basketball, but if you're a basketball fan, you know what I'm talking about. But Allen Iverson also was famous for saying, "Practice is just practice." So he treated it that way. Very lackadaisical, it is what it is. Imma rely on my talent when I get on the court. Allen Iverson didn't have championships to show for it. At one point, like I said, I believe he did go bankrupt. And while I'm not saying that Allen Iverson is a worse person than Kobe, I'm just looking at the performance, how they ended up excelling in their career because of what Kobe decided to do off the court. It showed up on the and because of what Allen Iverson decided to do off the court, it showed up on the court. So, what I'm saying to you is the things you decide to do, quote, unquote, "off the court," not at work, not in business, are probably just as, if not more valuable than what you do at work in the business, because it's gonna show up, okay? So, that was the professional side. That was the side. I just wanna scan real quick. I did see somebody type in on Instagram or YouTube, a couple of things. Real quick, so somebody says here, "Building and fostering relationships is key in the profession of human interaction. You have no choice but to build and foster those relationships." Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, thank you. And then I would shift that phrasing, right? You always have a choice. The choice is, I want to connect with people, and here's why, right? So I hear what you're saying as far as, like, well, if you wanna succeed, you don't really have a choice. But I wanna remove again that phrasing, you always have a choice. You never have to do anything, you get to do something. You never, "Oh, well, inevitably, I don't have a choice." Because we want to shift our mindset to, "I have this free will. What am I gonna choose to do with it?" And that does 2 things for you. Number 1, it gives you full accountability, because the minute you say, "I have to," you make it seem like you don't have a choice and you're beholden to, you're a slave to it, and now you've removed the accountability from yourself, and it's almost like I get to blame the system, I get to blame the thing if it doesn't work out. But the minute you say, "No, I choose to do this. I'm choosing to do this," you then take full responsibility for that. So that's why that's so important. It's hard, but it's important. The second piece, it's empowering to know that you have choice, right? So it goes both ways. It's empowering in a confidence sense, but it's also a lot of pressure because it's a full responsibility sense. But I do wanna encourage you from here on out, never say, "I have to," or "I must." Mm, I get to do this thing because it is a choice for you. Alright? Cool. So here's the personal take then. I give you all the professional coaching side and Let me just give you a little bit of the personal, and then we're gonna end in just, 5 minutes here. But on the personal, so this is my personal take, again, not as a coach, but just as Camille, your friend, speaking to you right now. So most of you know I am a woman of faith. If you don't know, I'm a woman of faith. And specifically, I believe in Jesus, right? So a huge part of what I do is in prayer. A huge part of what I do is reading the Word of God. And by no means am I saying that, "Oh, I know what's gonna happen." It's not prediction, this is not any of that, but I just know, and I'm saying this as somebody who might be going through this myself, is remember that God is way more interested in developing character than your and there is a line in the book of Romans that talks how we are to rejoice in our sufferings, for suffering produces perseverance or endurance, endurance, character, and character, hope. So imagine that for a second. When you feel like, "Man, everything is coming against me, this is tough, I don't know." We are called to rejoice in that moment of suffering. Why? Why would I wanna find joy in suffering? Isn't that lying to myself, Coach K? Well, let's dig deeper into what that says. The quote unquote "secret" to that, though, is when you get to a point where you can trust a good God is covering you, and you can say, "You know what? God, I know you're probably putting me through this or you're allowing the test because it is producing my endurance in life, my endurance in my walk and desire to serve others," right? There's perseverance that comes with it. When I was training for a marathon a couple of years ago before I got pregnant, and by the way, up until that point, never ran a marathon in my life, never ran more than 5 or 6 miles, like, ran, like, fully run, right? So to train for 26.2 was unfathomable for me because my identity up until that point was I am not a long distance runner. Remember how I said identity drives behavior? So I did not run, but at some point, I said, "You know what? I am someone who can do these things." So I did. And I trained for 4 months. As someone who does not like running, as someone who does not do long distance up until that point, I was training for a 26.2-mile race, okay? And as you do this, I remember my first couple of runs, I ran 3 miles, I was huffing and puffing. I was like, "How am I supposed to run 26.2 if I could barely run 3?" But you know what the beauty is? As you start running more and more, and goodness gracious, there is suffering in that run because I hated it every single time. It was really tough, it was really tough. I remember that significant moment. It was probably halfway through where I had a long weekend run. That's when I usually do my long runs. And I ran that weekend run was 14 miles, something like that. And when I finished that 14th mile, I remember coming home, looking at the watch, and I was like, "Woo, 14 miles. I did it. Cool." And then I stopped and I said, "What the hell? I just ran 14 miles." And I could see myself flashbacked to, like, 4 weeks ago, whatever it was, 6 weeks ago. Where I couldn't even run 3 without huffing and puffing, and here I am gliding to 14, and I never thought I could build that endurance. I just didn't even think it was possible, but I had to kinda go through the suffering, the discipline, the commitment to show up, and the muscle was built. So what I think is really beautiful is that even in a spiritual sense, right, the things that we see physically in the body are also mimicked internally for us, so that as you go through the training of this, it's not you're not gonna wanna get out. But now you can run 14 miles, whereas before you couldn't even do 3. And then you're gonna be able to do 17 and 18 and 19 and 20 and 26.2 for God. Because the second piece of this, remember, once you built that endurance, then it builds your character. As you know, especially if any of you are parents, you can't intervene in everything for your kids, 'cause what happens is you teach them nothing, right? And I'm learning this, the art of what to them feels like suffering, but you can also feel like suffering because you don't want them to suffer, but a good parent, a good father, a good mother knows they're just gonna it's not that bad. I know what's on the other side of this, and it's gonna build their character. They're gonna get stronger at this. They're gonna believe in this more. They're gonna understand this. And from that, the end result as you build your character, which I think is beautiful, hope. And when you are going through a tough times, be able to lift up your head and say, "I still have hope, though. Even if I can't see hope, I have it." It is built through this practice of finding joy in the trials that you are in. So, I just wanted to give you that personal bit. I know, again, it's not the professional coaching side, but I hope it helps you understand how my own practice is, right? And if you don't resonate with that, I totally get it, but I just wanna be honest with you that I have my own disciplines that allow me to do the work that I do, and I just wanted to be able to share that with you if it helps you as well, that there has to be non-negotiable practices of discipline, whether that's spiritual, personal, emotional for you, so that it can serve on your quote, unquote, "professional side," but remembering again that a good God is looking to develop your character versus your career, because guess what? When you have a solid character, it's gonna show up in your career in the most incredible ways. What is your career? It's your perfect service to them. That's really all it is at the end of the day. I know we see it as money making and maybe it's a scoreboard for how much you achieve, but that's all superficial stuff. At the end of the day, your business is serving people in a massive way, and it's not just the product, it's everything that you put into that product. It's their experience with you, it's their experience with the company, it's their experience with your family, etcetera, etcetera. So, that's it. That's our live for today. I know I've gone an hour. Um, and I hope it has been helpful for you. I always appreciate your feedback, so feel free to DM me, type in the chat, maybe some of your takeaways. I call it #THH. But if there's any invitation I can give you, remember how I said take scheduled, so actually next weekend, June 28th through 29th, I am doing a virtual mastermind for all my members and clients. I do a big mid-year thing. It's online both days. We do deep reflection. Um, I'll email this out to everybody, but I had it on my heart that I wanna open up 5 spots for anybody who's not currently a member or client to join us on that retreat. It is going to be paid, so it's not a free spot. There is going to be a financial investment. But if it speaks to you where you're like, "You know what? I need to do deep reflection at this point, and I do need a safe space in which to do it because I don't know if I'm ready to do it by myself. I need a guide," then just email me or you can DM me and just say "virtual retreat." I'll at least know what it's about so I can prioritize your, message. But DM me or email me, coaching@theultimatelife.com, virtual retreat. Send you the info on it, June 28th to 29th. So join me. Only 5 spots, okay? But again, even if that's not something you're called to, you just need to hear today's message, I really pray that you don't isolate yourself and that you actually find the community and the support that you need, the relationships that you need. Because like I said, the big factor right now for those who are succeeding is they are building these strong relationships because you are stronger together. That's how you're gonna get to where you want to get to more quickly and with more joy, with, more wholeness, instead of just feeling like you're going at it alone. There's no pride in that, and in fact, you actually may not be in the best position for getting all the different perspectives of wise counsel that is necessary for you to endure a tough season, but then also to thrive in the next season. So, find your tribe, find your community, reach out to me if you need any help with that, but I just appreciate y'all so much for being here. So, I don't see anything in the chat, so I'll leave y'all alone. You're welcome, Somebody said, thank you for the much needed." Alright, Imma pop off here on Instagram, and then on YouTube. Thanks so much. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Keep leading from love.